Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for a super special video. So today, originally, I was going to have the channel's very first Brawl format deck. Then, just as I was getting ready to get the video set and do all that kind of stuff, had it all recorded and everything, Wizards dropped a huge bombshell announcement on the Brawl format, changing a ton of things. So rather than having a deck today, we are breaking down the changes to Brawl, and they are huge, they are massive. I think they're mostly good, but we will talk about them as we go along. So first off, just a refresher, if you are somehow not familiar with Magic's newest format, Brawl is basically standard commander. You start with 60 cards, only one of each card in your deck. You got a commander just like normal commander, same color identity rules apply, and then you play some games with it. You start at 30 life mostly. We'll talk about that more in a minute too. So the thing with Brawl that's really unique and interesting is it has these competing forces where it was designed to be a casual multiplayer format, and that took off, and people were super excited about it, playing it all the time. Then Wizards also was like, all right, we'll run some Magic Online 1v1 tournaments for the Brawl format, and that also took off and became a pretty big thing. So now Brawl is trying to hit these two different audiences, the casual commander but with standard cards audience that just wants to play with 3, 4, 5, whatever their friends and do whatever cool thing they want to do, and also this kind of spiky tournament audience that just wants to win prizes, win as much as possible. And that's created some competing interests that have led to a really interesting announcement. So there are a bunch of changes to talk about today, starting first with banned and restricted lists and a banned and restricted announcement. So originally, the Brawl format just had the same exact ban list as standard. So if it was banned in standard, it was banned in Brawl. If it's unbanned in standard, it's unbanned in Brawl. And that probably is fine for the casual multiplayer side, but it led to some really big problems with the more spiky tournament focused side of Brawl. And Wizards has decided that they're going to have a separate Brawl ban list now. And along with the announcement of the creation of the Brawl ban lists, we got our first BNR update for the Brawl format. So number one, and this one's more focused on the spiky tournament side of things, Brawl Chief of Compliance is banned. It is out of here, and it is a great thing. Brawl Chief of Compliance, while it's probably fine if you're just playing casually and messing around, in the tournament scene, it was basically the only deck going. That's a slight exaggeration, but seriously, somewhere between 50 and 75% of the top decks at tournaments were Brawl Chief of Compliance decks that were just Brawl, mono counter spells, finish the game eventually after running you out of action with counter spells. So I'm just super happy to see Brawl Chief of Compliance thrown out the window. Little sad for the casual side of things, and Wizards actually mentioned that. They thought about splitting it into two ban lists, having the multiplayer ban list, the 1v1 ban list, but that just adds too much confusion, complexity. So Brawl banned everywhere. Of course, house rules, do your own thing. If you want to allow it in your, living room, your kitchen table, go ahead and do it. And that came along with a second banning, and this one at first caught me a little by surprise, but it kind of makes sense now that you think about it, especially for the more casual side of the Brawl format, and that is Sorcerous Spyglass. So one of the unique characteristics of Brawl is that you can use Planeswalkers as your commander. And Sorcerous Spyglass, if you're playing against a Planeswalker deck, is basically just 2 mana, lock down your commander. You name the Planeswalker, it can't do anything ever while Sorcerous Spyglass is on the battlefield. So a really unfun card in a format that's trying to encourage people to build really fun decks around cool standard legal Planeswalkers. So while I kind of like Sorcerous Spyglass as a punishment for Planeswalkers if you're playing competitive Brawl, I can definitely see the reason for it being banned. So those are the two big unbannings with the first ever Brawl BNR announcement. And since we have now split off the ban list from standard, we got a bunch of unbannings as well. So energy cards, legal in Brawl for the first time. I mean, we had some, but Aetherworks Marvel, Attune with Ether, Rogue Refiner, they are back. Now you can play the Aetherworks Marvel Big Stuff energy deck in Brawl, which is pretty cool. And the reason for this announcement, Wizards said, with a lot of these cards, is while they are often overpowered in standard, where you can play 4 copies, Brawl is a singleton format. So one Aetherworks Marvel, sure, there will be games where it's really good, but then there will also be games where you just never even draw it or see it. So it's hard to build standard Aetherworks Marvel deck in the Brawl format because you only got one Marvel, and if it gets killed, then your entire deck is just blown apart. So you got to use these cards more as, helpful pieces to your deck than centerpieces of your deck, since they're one-ofs. We also got Rampaging Ferocidon, Ramanop Ruins back to facilitate kind of like mono red aggro if you want to be more aggressive in the Brawl format, and Felidar Guardian, which means if you want to go infinite with Saheeli Rai, I'm not sure the right commander, you gotta be Jeskai at least, because you can't play Felidar Guardian in your Saheeli Rai. If Saheeli Rai is your commander, you can't play it in that deck because the colors don't line up. But if you're in a Jeskai deck, a 5-color deck, you have the ability to go infinite. But like I was saying with Aetherworks Marvel, it's not as scary as it sounds because you only get one of each of these cards. So what are the chances that you actually have your Saheeli Rai and it lives, you actually find your one Felidar Guardian and it lives, and you actually combo off some percentage of the games that'll happen, but more often than not, it's just a fun thing that'll happen every once in a while. So happy to see all these cards back in the format. So those are the big changes, bannings and unbannings, along with the creation of the ban list, and I am pretty happy in general with every single one of these changes. I think every single one of them is pretty good, and I think it's really exciting to see Wizards throwing their support behind the Brawl format. They also mentioned in the article they're working on more stuff. They're working on potentially, they didn't say specifically what, but they brought up things like event decks for Brawl or some sort of pre-construct deck product, promos for Brawl. So they're hearing all the feedback and all this love for Brawl and pushing forward with some of those possibilities. Who knows how long it'll be, but they are hearing everyone and getting this very positive response to the Brawl format. The other big change, this moves a little bit beyond the ban list, but colorless commanders were straight up unplayable in Brawl. So if you're familiar with Commander, it's the same in Brawl. In your Brawl deck, you can only play cards and basic lands that are on color with your commander, which means if you want to build Hopagurper, you want to build Karn Verza, there's simply not enough colorless lands, legal and standard, to build the deck. You just simply do not have enough. So to solve this problem, and make colorless decks, Karn decks, Hopagurper decks possible in the Brawl format, Wizards came to a pretty easy solution. If you're building a colorless deck in Brawl, you can pick one basic land type of your choosing. So island, mountain, plains, swamp, forest, whatever one you want, and play any number of that basic land. They said they also considered making wastes legal, but then that had its own set of problems with people having cards that weren't legal in standard and having to buy them and so forth. So this seems like a pretty simple and relatively elegant change. Your entire deck still has to be colorless cards. If Karn is your commander, even if you have swamps as your basic land, you can't be playing Vraska's Contempt or Liliana or whatever. You still have to play only colorless cards, but this actually means you can play enough lands to make a colorless deck functional. Finally, this change is only for the competitive scene. So there was one area where Wizards decided to tweak things a bit and break apart multiplayer and competitive, and that is in life totals. So in casual multiplayer Brawl, you still start with 30 life. In competitive Brawl, they're dropping that down to 20 life. And the reason for this is the metagame has been almost exclusively control decks, and no real aggro decks have been playable in the Brawl format in competitive 1v1 situations since it was invented. I'm not 100% sure whether that is because Brawl Chief of Compliance was just so busted that it made control too good, or if control decks are just way too good in a 30 life 1v1 standard format, but Wizards decided to cut down life totals to try to shift the format a little bit away from the Disallows and the Scarab Gods, more towards the Hazarats and Ramanop Ruins and Mono White Aggro and all that kind of stuff. So another change that it'll be interesting. I might have liked them to wait and see what the format looked like without Brawl Chief of Compliance, because I think it's possible that it's not that control was too good, but that Brawl was too good, and maybe just banning Brawl would have opened it up. But the other side of that argument is the few non-Brawl decks that were being good, other than Galta Primal Hunger, were pretty much Scarab God, Nicole Bolas control decks. So control was overpowered. Even the few that didn't go with Brawl as their commander were still mostly control decks, were the best in the format, and you just never really saw aggro decks. So hopefully this shakes up the format, makes it so you can play control, you can play aggro, you can play mid-range, play a little bit of everything, just like real standard. So anyway, that's the update for Brawl. So wanted to let you know about it. Let me know what you think. What do you think of all these changes? Are the bannings good? Are the unbannings good? The life total changes? Are you playing Brawl? What decks are you excited to build? Or is the colorless commander thing gonna be a deal now? Are you gonna build a deck now that you finally can legally? Does any of this even matter? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.